In this video, I want to show you a couple of items from Alvin Products, lab metal and lab metal solvent. And I'm also going to show you how to properly apply, finish, and powder coat over this product so you can get a better professional result. Hello, I'm Larry Bowe and welcome back to CycleFab. Let's get started. Alvin Products saw the review video that I did over their high temp lab metal and they liked it. So they got in touch with me and wanted to know if I would be interested in doing a video over their regular lab metal and lab solvent. Of course I said yes, and so they sent me a free sample to review. Now, no money exchanged hands, and this will be an unbiased review. I have two examples to show you today. The first is a control piece. It's a common mild steel dome fence post cap that I put a dent in with a ball peen hammer to simulate a dent in a motorcycle gas tank or fender. Now, the second piece is a real-world situation, an intake manifold that a customer needs to have repaired and powder coated. Here you can see a close-up of the dome and how big the dent is. And the manifold here has been pretty badly damaged with what looks to be hacksaw cuts, which I have heard of people doing this before in order to get a better seal with homemade silicone gaskets. Guys, don't ever do that. Luckily, I have a can of trusty lab metal and I have full and undying confidence that I can fix this. So let's get our two demo pieces sandblasted and get them prepped for the demo. Now I like to use a mixture of aluminum oxide and glass beads, about a 50-50 mixture to texture the surface for doing both lab metal and powder coating. The key point to remember when using lab metal is that after it's applied, you cannot sandblast the part again. It will ruin it. After sandblasting and blowing off the manifold, I brush on a coat of lab solvent to help with the application of the lab metal. The consistency of lab metal is about that of toothpaste. So you might want to thin it out a bit with lab solvent to get it to a more workable consistency depending on what you're doing with it. I personally like it kind of thick and just use an acid brush with the lab solvent while applying the lab metal. I find that ton depressors work best for me and they're an easy cleanup. Whenever you have to apply lab metal in layers, as this heavily dented dome piece, I personally like to apply lab metal in 1/8" layers and let it sit for a few moments before applying another layer. Now, Alvin Products suggests that you go no thicker than 3/8 of an inch in depth with the lab metal, but I find best results with thinner coats and building up a workable surface. Alvin Products states in the directions that lab metal needs to dry for a few hours before sanding it. Now, I personally like to give it 24 hours of curing time before removing any of the material. If you're liking this video about how to use Alvin Products, then please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And go ahead and ding that notification bell so you'll know when my next video is coming out. Okay guys, got her done. This stuff is set up like concrete. Now, the directions say just a few hours will be enough time for drying before you can sand it, but I like to let it sit for 24 hours just to make sure that it's thoroughly cured. For larger surfaces, I like to use this, just a large vibratory sander. And for the smaller detail pieces and getting into the little nooks and crannies of larger items, I'll use a 3/8" belt sander, or sometimes a disc sander. In some cases where I have to run over, and I did on this manifold, I'll use a small chisel to remove the excess before going over it with a small belt sander. Finally, I'll finish up with hand sanding, as you can see here, with the damage that was done to the intake manifold. Even the damage on the edge of the manifold came out pretty nicely too, without any problems. Even the dome repair did well also. Now, I'll degrease everything and then it'll be time for powder coating. So let's get to this. Okay guys, ready to powder coat. But there's something I gotta do first. It's called a shameless plug, yeah. The reason why I'm using two powder coat guns, well, first reason is this one's yellow, this one's gray, squirrel gray and bright yellow from Eastwood. Both powders are from Eastwood. But the unique thing about both these guns is that my company, CycleFab, makes the diffusers, the aftermarket kit for these guns. You can see them right here on the end. What it does is it increases the surface area of the electrode to better positively charge the particles coming out of the ends of these guns. And it helps it stick better to that and causes less waste, in other words, less powder on the deck, and saves you some money. So if you want to check these out, there'll be a link down below for the Eastwood, the Harbor Freight, hasn't quite hit production yet. I'm still working on the prototype. But anyway, remember, Eastwood diffuser kit right here, down below. Yeah, there's a link. So hit that link. Now, let's go ahead and powder coat these. Now, the manifold is going to be yellow, and the caps that you saw that simulate a dent in a fuel tank or a fender on a motorcycle, that'll be done in squirrel gray. So I'm going to go ahead and get with that, and you'll see me do a little powder coating, then off to the oven, and next time you see us, these guys will be done. And I'll give you a little bit more lowdown on lab metal and how to use it. First off, let me go ahead and say, do not take lab metal, the regular lab metal, over 425 degrees. My oven operates at 400 degrees typically on all the powders that I use. Now, all the powders that I use are manufactured by Eastwood. Really good powder. I love their powders. Matter of fact, it's great powder. So, I only work within the 400 range. I have no need to go up to 425. So, if you use Eastwood, you should not have a problem with the lab metal, none whatsoever. But Alvin Products does state, do not take this regular lab metal over 425 degrees. Anyway, let's get back to this. Both the manifold and the dome took the powder with no negative issues from the lab metal. Lab metal seems to be an extremely conductive material, as you can see here. The dome cap with the repaired dent has a large area of lab metal patch that has been feathered in, or as some might say, blended into the surrounding area of the dome. This process lowers the surface's visual contrast between the substrate and the lab metal. The two demo pieces have cooled down, so now we can get a better look at them with a close-up from the camera. The dome came out really good, with little to no visual contrast to it. The manifold with the hacksaw damage looks incredible. No one would know that someone had mutilated this thing unless you told them. You can purchase lab metal and lab metal solvent from Alvin Products at www.alvinproducts.com. If you've liked this video, then please like and subscribe to CycleFab. I'll see y'all next week. Bye.